But often men don't want to experience feelings like fear. Sometimes we'd rather be angry than admit that we have fear. That decision to love is often most powerful when our partner is not being their best self. Welcome to another episode of Rich in Relationship, and today we're talking about rising tide of the soul, elevating partnerships through self-growth. And this is building on our last episode, which was all about world-proofing your relationship. You know, it's how to show up as a couple and as an individual in the world and have that relationship remain strong and resilient. And it all starts with who? Oh, it starts with them, right? No, we're off the blame train, folks. It all starts with me. It all starts with us, right? So often I get guys who come to work with me on their marriage, and I say to them, we can't change them. We can't control them. We can barely even influence them positively. Let's face it, we're mostly influencing them negatively with our bad behavior. But we can change ourselves. And they go, yeah. And they get all enthusiastic and they jump in. And then we get into the work, and about 10 days or 2 weeks in, they start going, but wait a minute, everything's 50-50, right? It's half her fault. She should be changing too. Well, that's kind of what this episode is here to address. Maybe she should be changing. Yeah, she certainly has responsibility for where the relationship is, and if we can't change her, we can't fix her, we can't even really influence her positively directly, that only leaves us one canvas to paint, and that's our own. That only leaves us one piece of clay that needs to be shaped. And so why would it possibly work for us to work on ourselves? What could possibly drive that? And the truth is, we need to think of ourselves in this instance as the water. And as we rise, we bring everyone else up with us. Or another way to think of this is in the family mobile. God, I need to get a mobile in this office. For those of you who are watching the video blog, when in a mobile, when one piece lightens or it gets heavier, everyone else shifts. And what we know about people is they don't like change. Most people. And so when you shift and their life changes, they are forced to react because all of a sudden they're thrust into a new space, right? When we change the way we feel around our partners so that we are only hanging in there with our positivity and we're being really careful with our negative emotions, expressing them without dumping them, expressing them without blame, expressing them only in a way that's responsible and owning that there are feelings. When we do that, they go, whoa, who is that person? Are you the man or the woman that I married? And they have to change because there they are. They come in to push that button and you block. Or they come in to push that button and they push it and nothing happens. Instead of going, bah, which is reliable for them, you just go, right? Whatever your response, when it's different, they change also. And so that's what this episode is all about. Self-awareness and growth. Yeah, it's the thing we don't want to talk about. We always want to, as men, I'm talking to men today, ladies, you're welcome to listen, but forgive me, I'm going to be talking to men because this whole series of episodes has been all about men, how they're either the problem or the solution, right? Men, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what we've been talking about here. If we as men are going to be the good, we need to be good, right? If we're going to be the good, we need to let go of our negative emotions, release them, and make space for those positive emotions so that we can lead or uplift our family with positivity. That's probably the best way to put it, is I like uplift our family with positivity. So what does it mean to be self-aware? Self-awareness is about how we see ourselves, but it's also about awareness of the behaviors and emotions that other people are seeing in us that maybe we're not. Right. And so a lot of the men that I work with, they come into our Unbreakable Husbands program and they're like, why can't she see how much I love her? Why can't she see I'm just trying to help her? Why can't she see it? And they're upset, right? And they're not receiving the feedback that their wives are giving them. Their wives keep saying, no, that's not going to work. No, that's not okay. And rather than look at, all right, so what is it that I am putting out there that's generating a reaction in her, that's triggering a reaction in her, and how might I shift what I'm putting out there? They go to, if only she'd stop reacting that way. All right, so self-awareness is, yeah, we want to be aware enough of others to see how they're reacting, which men are notoriously bad at, by the way, right? We're all about, you know what? I'm going to have a good marriage and I know how to do it. Yeah, I'm going to be affectionate, no matter how I'm feeling, and I'm going to provide, and I'm going to make the household safe, and I'm going to make sure that everything, the troops stay in line, and da-da-da-da-da. And then when that doesn't work, we go, what? What happened? I thought that was my job. I thought these were my roles. And we often fail to look at what are the feelings that we're having underneath. And what we fail to understand is that our wives are super sensitive to those feelings. They're super reactive to the feelings, not the place that we want to go. I'm doing this for you. You don't understand. I'm working so hard for you. I'm working so hard for this family. That is meaningless because what they're experiencing is, I'm working so hard in an angry or fearful or hurt or sad way and dumping it on you so that I can make more money for all of us. And they're like, if the way to more money is I got to live with these feelings, I'm not going to play. And so as men, self-awareness is the first step to understanding, what am I feeling really? I had a couple of days ago that came in for a couples call, right? I do couples work also. And I asked them both, what are you afraid is going to happen in your marriage if things keep going the way that they are? And she answered, I'm afraid that the marriage is going to dissolve. And he said, I'm not afraid. And I was taken aback by this, and I really pushed on it. What do you mean you're not afraid? Oh, well, I have absolute faith and confidence that I'm going to do all the things that are important, and I'm really good. This marriage is going to work. I'm sure of it. And these were all the symptoms of a results-focused man rather than an emotionally focused man. Now, I know that he has some fear about the relationship, or he wouldn't have been in that first call. And unfortunately, we didn't have the time to really get down to it. But I know that he's got feelings. And we all do, right? But often men don't want to experience feelings like fear. Sometimes we'd rather be angry. Or sometimes we'd rather be perennially optimistic than admit that we have fear. Because admitting that we have fear, if we actually gave into that feeling, it might completely envelop us and overwhelm us. And in the right environment, that could happen and be okay. By the way, guys, it's okay to be immersed in a feeling that doesn't feel powerful. So the significance of regular self-reflection is that it allows us to be aware. The significance of self-reflection is it allows us to experience these feelings, which society has told us for the most part we shouldn't experience. We explored in previous episodes about how the societal expectation is that we're going to fall off our horse, we get back on. When the going gets tough, the tough get going, yada, yada, yada. But the reality is that in self-reflection, we can have those feelings safely and let go of them and move on. Or if we have trouble letting go of them, there are processes for letting go of them. There's numerous processes for letting go of old emotions so that we can move on. And why would we want to let go of those emotions instead of just compartmentalizing them and plowing forward? Because there are 4 prerequisites to change, right? If you really want to go someplace new in your marriage, there are 4 prerequisites to change. Number 1, we need to let go of old emotional baggage and beliefs that are limiting us and keeping us. An old belief would be, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. When they fall off a horse, you get back on it. Men don't need to have feelings like sadness, anger, and hurt, or if they do, they should just skim the surface, seal it off, and keep moving forward. Those would be limiting beliefs around that. We're going to let go of those limiting beliefs, let go of those old emotions. Step 2, once we've let go of the old emotions, we create a strategy. Why does step 2 follow step 1? Because if we create a strategy while we're in the emotions or ignoring the emotions still are at play. If we create a strategy when we have some limiting beliefs that are not effective, belief that's limiting is not effective, then the strategy is going to reflect those beliefs. The strategy is going to reflect our fears, our hurts, our sadness, whatever is in there. And the strategy, therefore, is what? Defective, which is why when so many men come to me, they say, I don't understand. I had a strategy and it's not working. It's because they didn't let go of the limiting beliefs and the old emotions. Step 3, once you have an effective strategy based on openness to all your feelings and release of the old ones that don't work, release of the limiting beliefs. Once you have that strategy, you act, right? That's when it's time to act. As men, we love to act, right? The sequence is be, do, have, all right? So the first part is let go of the old emotions and be content, be serene, be at peace, be determined, be whatever emotions are appropriate, but be in the emotionals, be aware of the emotion that's going to drive the doing. But men love to just do. Oh, you know what? This is bad. If I do this, it'll fix it, right? It doesn't really fix it unless we resolve how we're being, the emotional state first. All right, so we let go of old emotions, limiting beliefs. We create a strategy. We act. What happens when we act? Well, sometimes we find out that we didn't have all the information. So like when a plane is flying from LA to New York, it lays in a flight plan that looks pretty straight. There might be some deviations based on expected turbulence or weather events or the presence of other planes, but it's going to be a pretty straight path. But in reality, when they take off, the weather conditions change. When they take off, new planes come in the air. When they take off, there's all kinds of new information. And so they need to adjust. And that's the fourth part is we adjust. Let go of old emotions and beliefs, strategize, act, and adjust, right? But all that starts with self-reflection. You can't really get to New York from LA if you are operating under the belief that New York is only 1,000 miles away, for example. That would be a limiting belief, right? It's a lot more, folks. All right. So what does regular self-reflection look like? There are ways to do that. There's journaling, right? Guys don't like journaling. They don't like that word. Journaling very often sounds like, oh, I'm going to sit in my room and do some writing. So if it helps, think of it as, I'll give you a very masculine form of journaling. A very masculine form of journaling would be in the morning, you practice mindfulness, meditation, and or prayer, all right? And you think about what's to come. You get out your calendar and think about what's to come, right? And you explore your feelings about what's to come. And you think, oh, I've got that meeting with Tom, and Tom's still mad at me about X, Y, and Z. I need to figure out how to handle that. And the first thing before you make the strategy for how to handle that is what? You need to look at, how do I feel about X, Y, and Z? Am I good with what I did in X, Y, Z? Is there anything that I need to make things right with Tom in that uncomfortable situation, right? So in the morning, you sit down in I would say in a mindful way, go through your calendar, and then do some self-reflection. How do I feel about each situation? Do I feel positive going into that situation? If I don't feel positive, what's the feeling? What do I need to let go of? Or what actions can I take to help me let go of that feeling? If I feel like I offended someone a week ago and I'm going to be going to a meeting with them, maybe, you know what? Instead of being mad at them and blaming them for me offending them, maybe it's more like, all right, I'm going to own that I made a mistake. And I don't feel good about that because I like Tom. And maybe the first part of me is, Tom, last week I said ABC. And if somebody said that to me, my feelings would be hurt, or I might be a little angry. And I wanted you to know, I regret that. And that I'm going to be more careful in the future, right? So you're going to lay out a strategy coming from a place of showing grace and forgiveness to yourself and to Tom. As opposed to Tom, last week, we were talking about A, B, and C. And, you did something that made me really angry. And I'm sorry that I was angry. And that would be still in the anger, right? And not a real form of grace to yourself or the other person. All right, so we're in our morning. We're looking forward. We're looking at the possible sticking points and figuring them out. And then in the evening, we see how did we do? We're in our moment of reflection. And in the morning, we might want to be writing. We might not. It's not absolutely necessary. In the evening, we probably do want to be writing. We probably want to be writing out, how did it go? Wow, I had that meeting with Tom. It went so much better than I thought. Or I had that meeting with Tom and he didn't receive what I had to say to him. He was still upset. And at first I was a little angry about it, but I know really I was sad that our friendship has been impacted. And I'm going to reach out to him next week to see if things, how we might make things right between us. Or it might be, or our friendship has been impacted and I'm just going to accept that we're not, this friendship is going to be on the shelf for a while until he processes it, whatever it is. The writing is a way to reflect on our feelings and to plan forward, which is what we as men do best. So that's really different. What that process that I'm giving you is very different than journaling as it's presented to us. Journaling is kind of like, oh yeah, I had this day and I was feeling this and I was feeling that, right? I want you to think about journaling strategically as a man. It's going to help you. All right, so we talked about journaling. What else can we talk about? We talked about meditation. There are all kinds of meditation. There's Zen meditation. There's Christian meditation where you focus on a prayer over and over. There's what was known in the 1930s as reflective meditation, where you're kind of what we were talking about in the beginning of the day, where you're sitting in a comfortable chair and just reflecting on things and exploring your feelings and exploring how things fit together. But anything that you do where you're taking the time to look at what's going on inside of you, to clear the chatter that often goes on in our minds, that's going to help you out. And these are all forms of what? Self-reflection. Other ways that you can do self-reflection. I have had a coach in my life for the last 7 years, maybe longer. I have always had a coach. I've very rarely gone without a coach. And a coach is someone who can help me reflect and talk me through the parts where maybe I don't want to look as much. They can help me to look at the things that I'm skittery about. They can help me to have those feelings in a way that feels safe. It's not the same as therapy. I've also seen therapists over the years, and therapists have helped me to loosen and untie emotional knots that a coach might not be trained to do. But either getting help, these are both ways to increase your self-awareness and your ability to reflect on self. I've done processes like mental and emotional release with the help of a coach, where I've released traumas and limiting beliefs. And that's actually a process we use here at Richmond Relationship and in our Unbreakable Husbands program. It's a great process, really quick way to let go of old emotions and limiting beliefs. We need to be not only in self-reflection, but we need to be in continuous learning, right? And so one of the great things about the mental and emotional release process is the process actually has us go back to some old unresolved emotion. It might be resentment, it might be a hurt, it might be sadness, it might be guilt, it might be shame, and it'll help us to have unconscious and conscious learning about the situation so that we can let go of the emotion. So check that out. Emotions are here to help us learn. And so when we have an emotion, there is always an opportunity for learning. And when we get stuck emotionally, it's because we have not learned what we need to learn about that situation. And so this process, as I was telling you about, mental emotional release, is a great way to enhance learnings from unresolved emotions. And when we do that, we cultivate a growth mindset. We start embracing change positively. And God, when we're letting go of the old emotions and our come from changes, our actions start changing too. And it raises everyone in our family with us. I cannot tell you the changes that I've seen clients go through who have let go of their old stuff. Their wives come back to me and say, oh my God, he's like a different person. It's amazing. It is amazing. And that ripple effect isn't just in our families. It happens in our workplace. It happens in all of our communities. we start to find that not only are we changing the way that we relate to our partners, but we start changing the way that we relate to everyone else, because those old wounds and hurts that we've been covering over with calluses or armor, or that we've been compartmentalizing, they are interrupting all of our relationships, not just our partnership. And so when we have this self-awareness and we start to release these old wounds and hurts, and we start to have these new learnings, with the new learnings, we move forward as new and inspired leaders in our families and our communities. And I don't mean leaders like, gung-ho! I mean, sometimes we lead just by example, right? I want you to think about leadership is sometimes just leading by example. We start demonstrating that it's possible to live with more serenity. It's possible to live with more peace. It's possible to live with more grace. When we're in that space, we can actually decide to trust, even when our old emotions told us we shouldn't. We can decide to love, even when they're not in their being their best selves. We can love them anyway, right? That decision to love is often most powerful when our partner is not being their best self. And we love their best self. When our partner's not being their best self and we love their best self, we actually call forth their best self. They become aware that they can and are in there someone different than how they're behaving, right? That is the power of individual transformation. That is the power of individual change. And that is why working on yourself, even when they're not, will change the whole game in your marriage. I'm going to share something personal, which I don't do very often. 6 years ago, I was up against it in my life. I was really unhappy. My wife, by the way, thought our marriage was great. We were kind of living parallel lives, and she was really focused on growing her business. I was really miserable. And not only did I sell that business off and start doing what I do currently, but I started working on our marriage. And at first she was like, "What are you doing?" I remember I saw this movie, Fireproof. If you haven't seen Fireproof, by the way, I highly recommend it. Fireproof, which is all about a guy who's losing his wife and decides that he's going to change himself so that he can save the marriage. And everything he goes through a lot of the things I just talked about in this episode, by the way. And I decided I was going to do a 30-day fireproof exercise. So for 30 days, I just tried showing my wife all the different ways that I loved her. And some of them, she was like, meh. And some of them, she was like, oh, that's amazing. And so what I started to learn was, I started to learn how to apply my decision to love her, right, in ways where she could actually receive it. And then I learned about the 5 love languages. That's a whole other podcast episode. And so I started to be able to really show her my appreciation and love. Right? It was the beginning of a journey of transformation. And I went through periods there where I would try to fix her, and I would try to whine and complain about what I wasn't getting. And then it would always come back to transforming self. It always comes back to transforming self. And then as I would rise, she would rise. And today we have an amazing marriage, really amazing marriage, approaching soulmate level marriage, I would say, in which we're both learning to be more and more vulnerable with each other, which is what it's really about. And we both backslide, right? I mean, I'd love to tell you that I am the poster child for personal change, but in reality, the poster child for personal change is doing 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Like, this is kind of how it works, folks. All right, my men. So it has been a pleasure doing this episode with you. I invite you to come to the next and final episode in this series, which is a summary of what we've been talking about. It kind of wraps it all together. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you how this has been resonating with you. Like this, subscribe to this. I heard another podcast interviewer saying, give us 5 stars. I'm not sure how you give a podcast 5 stars, but if there's a way, do it. Recommend it to your friends. And if there's things that you'd like to hear about, direct message me or comment on the podcast. I watch, I respond, I listen to the best of my ability. Being a dinosaur, I may move a little slowly, but I do my best because I'm here to help you. Like, that's my mission. My mission is to help you have, and me, have happier, more effective relationships so that our lives and our children's lives are more joyful and resilient. Until next time, have a great day, and thank you for coming to Rich in Relationship.